Hello and welcome to another episode of Talk at the Trinity. Yes, it's been a little while. In the last week, you've heard from Dave Martinez, Dance Dave, talking about Marcus Rashford and could he return to Aston Villa. But one thing that could be returning to Aston Villa, and a big thank you, and I can't believe I'm saying this to Arsenal, but after their win against Sporting Lisbon last night, where they kept it quite late, scoring in injury time, they cemented for the Premier League, five teams in the Champions League, and it could get better because there is talk that if Villa or Forest win the Europa League or Liverpool win the Champions League, they didn't mention Arsenal. I don't know why. Maybe they think they're going to bottle it. That there could be six teams in the Champions League next season from the Premier League, which makes sense if a Europa League team wins it. And that's what we're looking at today. It's me, Will Forrest. People call me Mr. Trinity. My mom calls me the disappointment. And I'm with Dave Martinez, Dance Dave. Dave, how you doing, buddy?
I'm okay. It's one of the reasons why we both haven't been on is that we've both had our little issues with me. My son had an injury. I think you've had a sporting related injury, which we won't go into. And now just kind of one of those typical. We had a few days of sunshine in Ireland, and it's gone back to being miserable again. So we've got the colds going around again. So I do feel sorry for professional podcasters. Hello to the professional podcasters who clearly listen to every word we say. I do feel sorry for them trying to churn out a bit of content over the last week or two because no one's interested. Ireland had a big playoff game which we lost on penalties, which was a bit heartbreaking. But I'm sure for England fans, you had two completely pointless games, and so how can you even get yourself up for that? So it was almost like a little break from football, a little break from Villa. Anyway, so kind of I put up the piece on Rashford. You had a good piece on who's at left back from now on, but I suppose we'll get back into it now with games, because games is where it's at, watching the games. Looking forward to watching Villa in the Europa League tomorrow and hopefully then at the weekend. So I mean, we're back, and I'm happy actually because I've been struggling to find podcasts to listen to myself. What do I listen to now when there's no Villa games and people are just putting up random shite, which I have to do. I get that. Sorry, I shouldn't have used any bad language. I hear you go, have we lost our YouTube rating now? But I mean, so sympathies with all you professional podcasters, but we're here. Games are coming back, and it's great to have a good chat with Mr. Trinity himself.
Well, the thing that we're going to chat about today, and it's always great chatting to you. It's great when Baz can be on as well, but Baz is unfortunately absent. He's cup tied for
Cup tied.
For this leg of the Europa League.
Because let's not forget, Baz is the famous one. Baz is the one who's quoted consistently throughout Balagay's book on Unai Emery. So and Talk the Trinity gets a good mention in it. So Baz is the famous one.
I'm yet to get to that, but I've got a few weeks to catch up. I do need to pick up that book and read it again. But we're in the business end of the season now, very much so, with the returns of John McGinn and Yuri Tielemans that have come at just the right time for us. I know Jadon Sancho has suffered a shoulder injury, but they come at the right time because we need to mount a challenge to make sure that we get Champions League football. And we've got two ways of achieving that this year. As we just said, Arsenal did us a favour. We still hate you. But if we get top five, and we've got a 95% chance of getting top four football, it was, according to the Opta stats. So top five, we must be like 1,000%. But we could also win the Europa League. And we're down as one of the favourites to win that because of Unai Emery's impressive resume there. I think they're going to rename it the Unai Emery Trophy if we win it this season. There's strong competition later in the semi-finals and the finals, which we'll get into. But Bologna this week and next week, they shouldn't be sniffed at. They're doing well in Europe. The last time they lost in the Europa League, funny enough, was to a John McGinn strike at Villa Park. They're currently struggling in Serie A. they're 9 points off the European places, so they're going to want to be pushing on and making sure that they can um, continue the momentum of beating Roma. And I think most people would have said, well, Roma, they're nailed on to beat Bologna. Surely Roma will get through and it'll be a Villa Roma quarterfinal. And I imagine that, well, I do know some Villa fans who booked tickets to Rome and have had to re-divert. Bologna, though, how do you see this going on Thursday? Obviously, the Villa team as a whole and squad have had a big rest because of international fixtures being played. When we played Elche and lost to them 2-1 in that friendly, there were a lot of first teamers playing, such as Pau Torres, Jadon Sancho. We saw Tyrone Mings was captain again at the heart of the defence. Do you think the rest will have done as good? Do you think it's going to be helpful when we travel to Italy on Thursday night?
It's the big long break kind of came at the wrong time because we eventually got back to winning ways and eventually got back to performing like when Emery wanted. That being said, it was good for Tielemans to get some minutes in a pretty low intensity environment. And I got on the score sheet again, weak enough opposition, playing for Belgium. So in a way, for those two players, it's important. And actually, we need Onana now because he's our big £50 million player who hasn't up to yet justified that price tag. But there is the potential for him to be world class. So the first person I'm actually going to talk about is Onana, and he is looking good and he looked sharp playing for Belgium, and I think he could actually be very, very important. The minutes for Tielemans, obviously really important as well. I mean, when you look at all the stats, he's player of the season last year. Him and Kamara, I mean, just unbelievable losses. So obviously Kamara not back, which is why we need Onana playing well. But Tielemans, in terms of passing through and finding those kind of connections, and Ollie Watkins has struggled a bit. Maybe Tammy Abraham might get a bit more of a look in if he has better service from the likes of a Tielemans. So those two players going off for Belgium. So I've said, isn't the international break awful? Actually, it might function very well for those two players. I think those two players are really important. We've seen the impact of John McGinn as well. So once he playing for Scotland, it would have been friendlies again. So pretty low stakes situations. So I think actually, even though we're all frustrated with the break after West Ham, the two Belgian lads I think would have benefited from the games they had, and hopefully they can bring that to Bologna tomorrow. The likes, I mean, obviously Sancho's got an injury, but I mean, look, he's had 2 assists all season, so let's not panic that, we suddenly lost Jadon Sancho, what are we going to do? I mean, even was it actually against Lille, and he played fine. Like, he played fine, but the post-match interview with the official Villa podcast, lauding him, and they're, you're amazing, or whatever. I mean, I thought that was a little bit going slightly OTT. He had a decent game, but he's not the loss that a McGinn or a Tielemans was. So I'm okay with him being out. It's not great. Would love him as an option there, and I suppose the break. I don't know. I mean, should we not have played a friendly? But kind of then when you go on 2 weeks, you have to. I don't know. So your question was about the break. I think I've waffled on a bit. There's a question mark over, should we have gone for a friendly that was on TV, so probably was maybe more intense than it could have been, and Sancho got injured. That being said, we had to play a game in it. Slight frustration losing Sancho, but the experience, as I say, for the Belgian lads, I think will serve us well. Should we be worried about Bologna? Their form is patchy in Serie A. I think they've won 3 in the last 5, then lost the other 2. So when we got our 2-0 win over Lille, I did actually switch over to the other TNT channel to see the extra time of Bologna and Roma, and it was one of those situations where Roma had the majority of possession, but they couldn't break through, and Bologna did get their goal. They do have a dangerous side that we have to be aware of. They can score, but that being said, over 2 legs, I'd be very surprised if we don't put them away. I really would. Yeah, what do you think on a few of the things I've said there? The long break, how do you think we handle that?
I mean, it makes sense to have a friendly. You'd expect it to happen. It's a shame that there was an injury, but I suppose the silver lining to that injury is that Sancho's apparently ruled out for 3 weeks, and it happened 2 weeks ago. So he's only really out for a week. And yes, he was finding form. I agree. Um, he probably didn't deserve all of the praise that he got or the magnitude of it against Lille, but he put in a very strong performance. And recently, I think he's been showing signs of what Jadon Sancho can be. However, is that because Manchester United have told him, yeah, we're not keeping you? So he's playing for a move elsewhere. He's got a number of clubs that are after him, hasn't he? You know.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was told actually chatting to United fans at our game against Wolves, who were when we lost 2-0 there, and they actually said, "Look, don't be conned by Jadon Sancho. He might come good the last few weeks of the season because he wants a contract. Don't be fooled by it." You're right. He's finding, and I think that's it. And with the piece I did on Marcus Rashford, if anyone wants to go back and listen to it, can we afford to sign him? I look at the wages, and we don't really know, but we are paying 80% of some fairly hefty wages, and you'd have to wonder, I mean, has he justified that? Like, I'm sorry, he's nowhere near justified it. So, I mean, and the good thing, as you say, hopefully he'll be back in a week or two, but there's bigger plans. I mean, Tielemans on the pitch, I think, negates Sancho. If we had a fully strong squad, and I mean, if Kamara was fit, I don't think Sancho makes the starting 11 anyway.
No, I completely agree. And there's meant to be that rumour, and again, it is a rumour. We don't know for definite. You might hear otherwise on other podcasts. But Jadon Sancho, apparently, it's written into his deal that Villa have to pay 100% of his wages if he doesn't make the match day squad and he's fit enough to make it. Otherwise, we pay 80%. I remember reading it at the time and thinking, oh, okay, so he's going to be involved quite a bit. But I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Jadon Sancho, let's be completely honest, has done very well for Villa, or has done well for Villa, when he's been playing on the right wing. He's looked better, he's looked sharper, he's got more involved, he's got a goal against Fenerbahce, he's got assists against Lille and against West Ham. He loves setting up John McGinn, apparently, for his goals. But with John McGinn back, he comes in on the right wing. If you got Youri Tielemans back, he sits in that cam where he was sat at the start of the season, I would imagine. And then Morgan Rogers comes in on the left. So there's no room for Jadon Sancho unless they do what they did against Fulham at the start of the season and move McGinn into centre midfield, or do what they did last year and move Tielemans there. And for me, I wouldn't do either. Those three, McGinn, Tielemans, Rogers, they would be behind whoever our striker is. And the first name in centre mid for me, and you can leave comments if you want, you can come at me, it's absolutely fine, would be Lamar Bogard.
I knew you were going to say that.
You knew I was going to say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
He's the most natural replacement for Boubacar Kamara. He's not as good as Kamara, but he's similar in style. He's defensive. He can drop into a back three when we attack. His distribution when he's on the ball under pressure is in the 90% for passes completed. It allows Anana to play box to box or Dougie Luiz to create from there. Saying that, Anana, Luiz, Barkley have all done very well recently as
Yeah,
well.
we can't play Barkley, of course, in the Europa League, unfortunately. We could play Harvey Elliott.
I would love to see Harvey Elliott play in the Europa League. It's got to be an option, hasn't it? McGinn alongside Anana, Harvey Elliott on the right with Tielemans and Rogers.
Yeah, my only worry is that he's really short game time. He's not going to last. Would he even he'd last 45 minutes? Would he?
He played the whole game against Salzburg.
Yeah. So it is it's an option. It's an option, absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody like Ian Martin playing further forward and Luca Din dropping in at left back just to get that at least a draw or a 1-0 win away. We're very good at going away from home and grinding out results like we did against Fenerbahce. in Europe, and I appreciate I've mentioned that game a couple of times. Feyenoord away, we did very well with our counter attacks and the goals we scored. Buendia scored in that game. Of course, he's an option for
Mm.
playing behind the striker as well. I think Emery's got he's got question marks all over the pitch, hasn't he, as to who plays.
Yeah, I mean, I would suspect that Douglas Luiz will be the man to come in beside Onana because that's who he's had. I appreciate your point. He's not fitted in there as well. Now, I mean, again, was there a question over how many matches he'd played and if he could get fit, how good would he be? So, but I would suspect that. I mean, you can almost pick the squad now. I would expect that if you're looking, back at the West Ham game, there'd be two changes: Barkley out, and I think Louise would come in, and then obviously you don't have Sancho, so I think Tielemans comes in, and I think that's the lineup we go with against Bologna. Do we need to win the game, or would you be happy with the draw?
I'd be happy with a draw in the confidence that we'd win the game. I'd want a 0-0 or a 1-1, and I'd hope that it would be us who were scoring later on to keep momentum, especially, and we'll touch upon this in a little while, the big game that we got at the weekend that's getting harder with Nottingham Forest's form. I mean, I agree with you. Sancho obviously comes out and Tielemans comes in there and you rejig that free. I wouldn't be surprised to see Abraham up front. He knows the Italian league. He's done well in the Europa League previously. He's a bit more of a stronger focal point for us. He'll drop in as well, like Watkins does. Dougie Luiz coming in alongside Onana. I think Dougie Luiz and Onana have struggled together because there isn't a natural defensive midfielder there. And that's why I go with Bogard alongside one of them, or the man in the Iron Mask, Victor Lindelof, into centre mid.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I didn't even think of him, and he'd be a good. He's done well in Europe. He's done very well in Europe. Definitely our best signing if you look at the amount we've paid for him of the season. Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder, does he have the mask still on?
But apparently, in Sweden's game, he decided to take it off, threw it aside, and it was very much a case of, well, if you get knocked there, you will be out for the season and you will need surgery. But benefits outweighed.
Yeah, and they made the World Cup at the expense of Matty Cash's Poland. So, and Lindelof, is he the captain, or have I made that up? But he certainly played he's the captain, yeah. So, look, I mean, he's probably buzzing a little bit. So, actually, I know I said the West Ham team, maybe Lindelof actually starts in either centre, midfield, or in defence.
I mean, from what Unai Emery said recently, and there is one other position that I'll go into in a minute that we might consider someone else playing in. We've seen Concert and Pau starting at centre back, which is a shift from what Emery said, where he said that he was putting in Mings because of the lack of Kamara in centre mid for that strength. But Pau Torres, everybody knows that I'm a big fan of Pau Torres. His progressive passing through the lines was much needed when Tielemans was out. It's got to be him in concert with the two centre midfielders in front. Who do you start at left back? Do you keep Luca Dean in then, or do you throw in Ian Martson? Because for me, I'm going Ian Martson, and I've got a couple of reasons for it, and most of them are Luca Dean's recent performances. But would you be keeping that starting left back?
Yeah, I would, and here's why. It's because we are away from home. So I would imagine that we need to be wary that Bologna are going to try and make their advantage count. This is the situation right throughout the Europa League now. In the first leg, the team that's home will try and go and make their home advantage count and get a foothold in the tie. So I reckon they can score goals. I mean, both their strikers, I think, have scored about 7 or 8 goals all season. So not prolific, but saying that, we're not particularly prolific with any one striker either. So, and there's 2 of them. So they are capable of getting goals. They really are. So I think we are going to come in under pressure. And I think just in terms of if we need to go through a period of holding our own, that we do need someone like Luca Dean there. That being said, it might be one eye to Sunday, because there's a big game coming up on Sunday as well, and it's a big game for a lot of reasons, because Nottingham Forest are going to be against Porto, who they've already beaten in the group stages. That being said, I think Porto are probably one of the strongest teams left in the draw. So, and whereas part of me completely fears a semi-final against a fellow Midlands team, and they'll be up for it, taking out Porto, maybe that actually would be a positive if they could do that, providing we get past Bologna. Let's not count our chickens. So that game on Sunday has an awful lot of an awful lot of storylines and interconnecting parts to it, because Nottingham Forest need to stay in the Premier League. They got a big win over Spurs before the break, and that was huge for them, to just give them a little bit of, well, not even breathing space, but more belief and maybe a bit of momentum. Although maybe the international break came at the wrong time for them as well. So that's 2 wins in a row. They beat Midtjylland and Spurs back to back. So they will be playing against Porto. They then have to go and face us in a game that's quite important for their survival, because they're still in a bit of. If you look down there, it's very tight. West Ham have picked up. Spurs, my goodness, you would think that the players they should get out of it. Nottingham Forest need to keep playing. Leeds getting into trouble a little bit as well. So they really need the win. So it's going to be a tough game at the weekend as well. So usually what happens in the Europa League is that we play a squad. There's a few changes in it, a starting lineup. So you like Sivir Lindelof or Tammy, although he hasn't started with Tammy too much. But then after 60 minutes, we see kind of some of the regular starters come on, and they have 30 minutes. And it's like a training match, and then they're ready to go for Sunday. So can we do that at this stage of the competition? Now, if this was Bologna in the group stages, I would say absolutely. But I have an idea. It might be a bit more, energetic, and support might be a bit more raucous. Do we try and hold our own a bit? And do we try and go with our strongest possible 11 now at this stage, without necessarily thinking about Sunday? What do you think, Will?
I think it's got to the point where Unai Emery probably needs to focus on one or the other competitions, Premier League or the Europa League, and we've said that for a little while, but I think now he's really getting into that stage of the season, and we've sort of had a buffer in some ways handed to us with that Arsenal win last night, again confirming top 5 for the Champions League if you finish there in the Premiership. So we can relax maybe a little bit more in the league, providing we're getting the results that we need to in Europe. And for me, I would imagine that for at least the first 70 minutes, and I've spotted that 60-minute mark for Unai Emery's substitutions as well that you pointed out. But I think for at least 70-75 minutes, we will see the strongest Aston Villa team available. We'll hope to be 1-0 up, 2-0 up, 2-1 up, or a good amount of goals up. And then, and only then, will he start to make calculated changes. We might see Luca Din playing the whole game and Ian Martin brought in on Sunday to try and quell the threat of an Amari Hutchinson,
Yeah.
Barkley likely to come in on Sunday because he's been in fantastic form. Will Onana and Dougie Luiz share game time on Thursday, potentially? I'd imagine that Ollie Watkins will start and Tammy Abraham will come on. The ones that he'll want to rest or give rests to are McGinn and Tielemans where he can if we're in the league, and probably Onana because he needs to be wrapped in cotton wool, let's be completely honest. Yeah, so I think it will be strongest team. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I suppose the fact that there has been a gap now, we need to get a bit of. Emery keeps on going with consistency, and he'll probably put near to starting 11 out on the pitch, with the exception of Ross Barkley, who I think will start on Sunday. And what you said about Dean Matson, I still reckon one will come on for the other. He'll still give one the run around, but that'll be the one where if he starts with Dean, which I think he will. Maatsen comes in for Sunday, but other than that, probably is unless Lindelof comes in, that's the one other. But so those three players, the other 8, I think, will all be starters on Sunday, and the changes come in at 60 minutes. I think that makes the most sense, seeing as though we've had the gap, and just to get that kind of fluidity back into the team. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw. A 0-0 or a 1-0. I really wouldn't be surprised, because everyone's going to be that little bit rusty. We might be a bit more defensively cautious, taking the tie back to Villa Park. Should we focus on one or the other? I think that's a real conversation if we get to the semi-finals or the final. What has worked really well is twice during the year, the Europa League has acted as a bit of a catalyst for our league form. So actually Bologna was the first game, and then we went and then beat Burnley after it, I think, at the weekend, and then we were all over the shop for a month, and then we beat Lille, even though it was only a dodgy 1-0. Okay, we lost to Man United then, but we beat Lille again, and then went and brought that momentum into West Ham. So getting a scruffy, dirty 1-0 would actually be great for momentum, and that's why that I still think we can use the Europa League at this stage as a means to try and augment our league form and to get the motivation going. Now, if we get the further into the season we go, if we're leg 2 against Forest or Porto, and the buffer is still there against Chelsea and Liverpool, I think that might be the time to think about the stronger team for the Europa League. Right now, I'd still be juggling the two and kind of taking the two equally. We gotta, the most important thing is Champions League qualification, and I know when the Europa League gets Champions League, but Emery, I think he last won it, was it 11-10 penalty shootout win against Man United. I do not want to be in a penalty shootout at 10-all, with Champions League depending on it. It would be great, but I wouldn't be able to enjoy it at all. I would like us to confirm our Champions League position in the league prior to that, and I think if you look at Liverpool's run-in and Chelsea have a few tough fixtures, I think that's very, very doable. And you look at the sides we're playing, we can absolutely have that buffer of about 6 points with a few weeks to go, with a couple of games left. Especially, if we can go into Liverpool and Man City the last 2 games and not have to worry about Champions League qualification, then it's absolutely all bets off. Let's just focus on the Europa League. I still think we should take it kind of both competitions seriously at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I'd always take the Premier League that little bit more seriously than anything else. It would be great to win a trophy. Not so much for me, not so much for all the other fans really, but the joy that it brings to the younger generations. And I remember and thinking, we got 20-year-olds or early 30-year-olds who won't have seen Villa win a cup. We're lucky enough to have seen them win 2 League Cups.
Yeah, and I just have to say, me as a young kid, that I will never forget that Tranmere Rovers semi-final. Never. I mean, I know people go on about it as amazing winning the Man United match, the Tranmere game over the 2 legs. So that I won't go into details, but that was incredible. We reminisced about it with Sean Teal a little bit. That was an amazing thing to witness. So I get it. We want to win a trophy. I suppose my thinking would be is that for the long-term future of Villa, and to make us more likely to win trophies in the future, we got to get back into the Champions League. And, the stakes are high. So, I think at the moment, maybe you're right. The league has to take preference still at the moment.
Yeah, I think the league, you've got a 1 in 5 chance of getting Champions League. In Europe, it's a 1 in 1, isn't it? It's drastically reduced odds. I don't mind if it's penalty shootout final. I mean, for the Villa fans who are listening, any other football fans who are listening, trivia question for you. When was the last time that Villa lost a penalty shootout in a competitive match? And you can't include West Ham in the League Cup.
Because they had an ineligible player.
Null and void. When was it? Have a look. Let us know in the comments below.
Oh, I'm going to have a think about that. I don't know offhand. We are dreadful at penalties. No, we're dreadful at penalties in the game.
Oh, well, we don't get any.
That's true as well. Yeah.
The last one we had was Emi Buendia. To be fair, actually, the last time we lost a penalty shootout in a competitive competition was Brentford this season.
Oh yeah, of
Before,
course, yeah.
before that,
Before Brentford, okay.
because
When
you're
did we win
going
last
back
season?
in the history books to see when
Wow.
it
Okay,
was.
yeah.
So
Unfortunately, being
Bologna,
An Ireland fan, the last time we lost a penalty shootout was about 2 weeks ago. So bit sore. That's why I don't really want to go down that road again.
fair enough, fair enough. But are you going to be feeling sore on Thursday night after watching the game? What do you think the score is going to be?
0-0. Sorry, boring. I think it's going to be 0-0. I think both teams a little bit rusty. We'll have a good run out. We'll get a bit of consistency, and I think we could then go into the game, the City ground. And I just think that Emery is a little bit better at managing a team for 2 games in the space of the Thursday to Sunday. Then God, who manages Forest now? Pereira, is that it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, done very well.
So I think we might actually get the win against Nottingham Forest at the weekend. So it's a boring 0-0 against Bologna, but then maybe a 2-1 against Forest at the weekend because Emery will just manage the situation a little bit better.
See, I think that John McGinn's going to lead us to a 2-0 away win on Thursday night. The reason I say that is we create an awful lot of chances away from home in Europe. Fenerbahce, we could have put them to bed early on. In the defeat to Go Ahead Eagles, we created a lot of chances and should really have won that game, but for poor defending. The same with the other away games that we've had. Feyenoord, we created a lot of chances. We did it against Bâle as well. Lille away, maybe not so much, but we were on a bad run of form. So I'm going to say 2-0, and I think that will help us get into the quarterfinals. I'm going to ask you 3 questions before we move on to Nottingham Forest.
Okay.
First answer that comes into your head, okay? Freiburg versus Celta Vigo. Who gets through?
Celta Vigo.
Okay. Braga versus Betis. Who gets through?
Betis.
Nottingham Forest versus Porto. Who gets through?
Forest.
Okay. So you think it's going to be, hopefully, an all Midlands semi-final there, which would at least guarantee an English team in the final. I was hoping that we would get Forest over Porto in the semis. If we get through, we have to get through first, obviously. But the more I see Forest playing at the moment under Pereira and the influence that it's had on the game of Elliot Anderson, Morgan Gibbs-White, and some other players, I'd rather play Porto. Now, that comes down to the fact that I've been playing Football Manager recently, did a season with Porto, won the league quite comfortably. But
Yeah.
evaluating their squad based on that, and also seeing that Samu Agahoa is out for the season with an ACL injury, it sort of makes you think, okay, well, they've got Luke de Jong up front, but what else have they got? I mean, it's a cauldron at their stadium, but I think I'd be more comfortable going there, getting a result and beating them at home than I would Nottingham Forest in Europe at the moment.
I think away to Porto was a tougher game than away to Bologna, which is why I think the Villa will win at the weekend. I do share your concerns that in a way, look, Bologna are not better than Roma, but they beat them, and I think that was because it was the local side, and I managers talk about it's awful when you're against a team from your own country in a European game because it's just kind of the other, especially when you're favoured to do it because the team just kind of manages to rise up. And again, with this Midlands derby, it is a worry. That being said, if we're at a stage where Nottingham Forest are still not safe, that might be at the back of the players' minds that they've got this game against Aston Villa, but we really got a more important game at the weekend. And I think that could be that could be important, especially if we have somehow after our month, if we manage to maintain our 6-point buffer or even extend it, we'll just be in a better mental state going into that. That's why I think we should be okay against Forest, but there is a risk when it's a derby.
Yeah, I mean, you make a very good point there about Nottingham Forest, to be fair. And the other thing we have to remember as well is that by finishing second in the group stage of the Europa League, we are the highest ranked team that is still in the competition. But we also get home advantage in those all important second legs. But a place where we don't have home advantage is this Sunday at the City Ground against a team that we've mentioned a few times. Nottingham Forest, no relation to me. Um, they went into the international break on the back of an outstanding yet quite comfortable 3-0 win over Tottenham Hotspur with three different goal scorers, some fantastic goals scored as well. They seem to be getting the best out of the team at the moment since Pereira's become the manager. You mentioned the win against Midtjylland. You know,
Mm.
Yates is performing, Anderson's doing well, Morgan Gibbs White is performing, even Igor Jesus has scored for them recently as well. And they've seen Ola Aina return to the match day squad, and I don't think his impact can go underrated for them. Despite being a fullback, you know, you wouldn't think it would have that much of an impact, but he's a key player for them there, and they seem to have sorted out the goalkeeping situation since we last played them.
Yeah, our gimme. Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, again, this is why it's very interesting because, like, how much of the weekend will be a kind of game of chess with thinking potentially to a semi-final in the Europa League. I mean, that is why this game is very interesting at the weekend. Um, Porto's a tough game, and they'll have their biggest crowd of the season, you know, for it. Porto, I mean, not Forest. It's a difficult night on Thursday, as I said. And it'll be interesting to see how they do now. If they go and get a 2-0 win against Porto, then we might be in a bit of trouble because they'll come up with their, you know, come to the City Ground with their tails up. But yeah, I mean, look, they beat Spurs, but I mean, Spurs have been appalling. Like, there's no other way. I mean, okay, they got their draw against Liverpool, but Liverpool have been fairly ropey as well. So, I mean, I don't think we can read too much into that. And there's a huge gulf between, you know, the Premier League and other you know, leagues. So, Midtjylland are Norway, are they? Tell me I'm right there.
Denmark.
Denmark, that's the. Oh, yeah, I should know that. I was just in Denmark. So. Oops. Yeah, so there's a big gulf between those leagues. So the recent form, I'm not going to read too much into it yet. I'd be very interested. They have beaten Porto before in the group stages, but I'd be interested to see how they get on. Because I think they'll find it tough. I think even though I think they'll come through over two legs, I think they will find this Thursday tough, and I think that'll take its toll on the players. I just apparently would love them to go down because I love Morgan Gibbs White at Villa, especially if Morgan Rogers moves on. You know, so I want West Ham to go down so we can try and get Bowen, although I'm sure other clubs will be in from as well. And I like Nottingham Forest to go down so we could try and get Morgan Gibbs White. They'd be brilliant players.
From Spurs?
Conor Gallagher. No, he can sod off. Stay in London there, yeah. Enjoy your derby against Millwall.
Oh, they're coming up. So.
Oh, are they? Right, so they won't be that
okay. They might get Luton.
Yes, if Luke got. I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you want a kind of like Simmons or Van de Ven in defence? You know, there's some players who you take. Is Solanke still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been injured, so yeah, I've stopped at that. At those two players, Simmons or Van de Ven. I don't know what to take with Charlison.
I think if I was looking at any of the Tottenham players to bring in, it would probably be Mikey Moore.
Right.
As a younger newcomer,
yeah,
or a Papa Sarr. He's done very well for them this season. To be fair, you know, it'd depend on who we were selling. Let's be completely honest.
Absolutely, yeah.
The West Ham players, we're meant to be looking at Somerville, along with a lot of other team. Bowen pushing on 30, but comes from Herefordshire. His dad's a Villa fan, and the other team that you mentioned, Nottingham Forest, Morgan Gibbs White, Elliot Anderson, they're one of a couple. I wouldn't mind one of their centre backs as well, and I think that's potentially where the game gets won and lost on Sunday. Milenkovic and Murillo, two big beastly centre backs that you would imagine standing on security at Snob's nightclub on Broad Street and saying, "You don't look old enough, you're not coming in," type of thing. I think that they will. I think that they will find it quite easy against Ollie Watkins if Ollie Watkins regresses into himself again. But on recent form and with the goals that he's been scoring recently, he could prove a handful for them. And if we get John McGinn, it's going to sound potentially a bit daft. If we can get John McGinn into centre midfield and breaking up Gibbs White and Anderson's passing lanes, along with Dominguez as well, who's had a very good season for Forest, and we get someone with a bit of speed out on the wing, or a Buendia who's tenacious, then it just balances things back into our favour again. But Watkins has struggled against the more physical defenders this season, which is unusual for him. But with Watkins seeing how the England strikers have done over the last two games, and with the goals that he scored recently, the finish against West Ham, very, very good instinctive play to get there ahead of their defenders, especially Mavropanos. So you were impressed with
Up until that point. I was, though. I played very well in the first half.
Fantastic first half, even when he headed the crossbar as well, which the media didn't pick up on. But if Watkins is starting to think, hang on a minute, Solanke didn't do anything, and nor did Calvert-Lewin, and nor did Phil Foden, I've scored 2 goals. It's me and Danny Welbeck now who are going for it.
I mean, what you're saying, I mean, being dropped by England was maybe a good thing. I don't know, was I hoping England strikers would score in his absence, because it didn't really happen. But maybe it is that he knows that, right, they got called up, they didn't do it, I'm going to now prove my worth the last few weeks. It would be great to see. It would be great for Villa, because we need those goals.
Massively. Because he doesn't fancy Abraham just yet, does he? It seems to be that Unai Emery, let's bleed them into the team slowly.
I mean, I hope that's the case, because it took Tielemans a season to, acclimatise and look how good he is. I feel sorry for Tammy Abraham, because he's coming back and taking a big pay cut, and he seemed to be doing actually okay at Besiktas. But obviously, there was talk he's going to come back and try and get his World Cup spot. That's just not happening. So, and you gotta wonder why if we're on a limited budget, why we paying lots of money for players we don't actually play. But anyway, let's hope that next season we start to see him feature a little bit more. But going back to what you said about Ollie, this is time for Ollie to show what he can do. And even though he runs his heart out, you need a few goals to get everyone talking, and for Tuchel to notice him again. So absolutely, let's hope that he knuckles down now and proves his worth for the World Cup.
Well, he scored the thunderbolt, didn't he, against Forest at home, from outside the area, straight into that top left corner, in the 3-1 victory. Just before half time. Who do you think, if not Ollie Watkins, who do you think is the key player for, and I didn't ask you this for Bologna, who do you think it is for Bologna, and who do you think it is for Nottingham Forest?
I mean,
Villa playing against them, obviously the key player for us to win it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't Tielemans back. Now, how long he'll play, I don't know. But having Tielemans back over the 2 legs, I think he'll feature. Do you just mean this away game? Do you? This first leg? Yeah. I'd say it's then McGinn, because we need the leadership. But I think Tielemans coming back is very important as well, just for the side. Probably still short a bit of match time. So McGinn is the leader, but he's come back in, and there's been an instant rise in performance. And he was off the pitch when United ran riot over us at Old Trafford. So McGinn for me, and then Notts Forest. I mean, look, Notts Forest, it's the old-fashioned, the kind of Martin O'Neill defence, isn't it? The big lads there. Now, can we get someone to run around and try and give them a tough time? I mean, then you look at Morgan Rogers, who hasn't captured the form that he had in when we were talking to Luis Miguel Echegaray when he was deciding that he was our player of the season so far. I don't think he's maintained that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still in the England squad. He's still rated probably higher than Jude Bellingham. I think that's fair to say. And maybe now again with the World Cup on the horizon, he'll just think I need to. I'm in the driving seat. I need to just cement this a bit more now for the run in and maybe win something with Villa. So, I'll go with McGinn on Thursday and Rodgers at the weekend on Sunday. What about you, Will?
See, I see what you're saying about Rodgers. I think Rodgers had such a poor start to the season, did well for that time where he was scoring quite a few goals, and then has dropped off again a bit. But both of those times have coincided with Tielemans and McGinn being out of the team, and he's had the pressure of responsibility on his shoulders. There's a lot of talk about Morgan Rodgers leaving at the end of the season as well. So if that's true, he's going to be wanting to have his best run of form from now until the end of the World Cup, and we'd be hoping for the same mainly for the reason that we get Champions League or win the Europa League or both. And if we are sending him, we want a lot of money.
Well, I mean, it's the Grealish. I mean, okay, Grealish, he got us 100 million, so which helped us with these stupid rules, but it helped us massively. So it would have to be a ridiculous amount of cash, but ridiculous amount of cash get bandied about. And look, we got him for 15 million. If we can make 80 million, 90 million on him, then it's great bit of business. Let's do it again.
I mean, when you look at other cams who have gone for big money at the moment, Morgan Rodgers is better than Florian Wirtz.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was over 100 million.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said, I think it's John McGinn for both legs. I put out on the Twitter page a little while ago who's been the most missed player, and we had an episode on it in regards to McGinn, Tielemans, Kamara. I always thought it was Kamara, but the impact that John McGinn has had and Baz is sat at home very happy at the moment listening to this. It's got to be John McGinn because of the energy. He's a proper captain. He's grown into that role. He's grown into the leader. He's Mr. Aston Villa more than anybody else at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, by all reports, he came back into the dressing room and said, "Who stood up when I was gone? None of you." So something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing and listening to what journalists said, and I can't even remember who said it. But that's just it's just what you need. Come on, guys. You're not stepping up. And he came back, and he is Mr. They call him Mr. Trinity. He is at the moment Mr. Aston Villa. He's fulfilled that role, and delighted for him going to the World Cup. He's come up with us from the Championship. It'd be great to see him lift a trophy. It really, really would. It really, really would. Because he deserves it. But you're dead right. I can't really argue with your point there. He's just come in and lifted us, and he's so. And I don't think he'll drop off now. I think he'll be sustained. Form and leadership to the end of the season now, because we're in the run in, and it's he's kind of re-exerted his authority. It's a bit like if you're out of your workplace for a few weeks and it all goes to pot. It's like, okay, we really needed him, so he comes back now and it's like, right, I'm going to show you what you should have been doing. So good luck to him, and hopefully he'll reap the rewards for us.
But I think the thing there as well is, as we've said with those other players, he is also wanting to get to the World Cup. He's probably more nailed on than other Villa players getting into the squad. And if he's on form, then Scotland have a better chance of progressing out of their group stages. So coming on to Nottingham Forest then at the weekend, we need a score. We need to know whether we think it's going to be a win or a draw for us over in the East Midlands. That short journey, 2:00 on Sunday on Sky Sports. Do we think that Aston Villa are going to get a positive result against the Tricky Trees, or is it going to be a result that stumps us?
No, I mean, like I've said before, I think we'll get the result because I think Emery's better at managing the Thursday to Sunday, and I think Bologna is not as tough a game as away to Porto, even though I think Forest will come through that tie. I think they're gonna suffer the effects from it and a little bit of fatigue there, and I think even though I think it's only a draw for us on Thursday, I think we'll get the result at the weekend.
we go. Positive, Dave. I also think that we'll beat Nottingham Forest at the weekend too. We need to make the most of these easier games that we've got coming up in the league, which include Sunderland at home, Fulham away, Burnley away, and also Tottenham Hotspur at home, and Liverpool at home as well.
Let's forget about
Um,
those last two games. But there's absolutely we can. There's no easy games in the league, but there are some that are less difficult than others, and so I think we have a few of those games coming up.
we will beat Liverpool. We will beat. Well, we might draw with them, but we won't lose to Liverpool. There you go.
Well, we're at home, so that's hopefully.
But we'll end on that note there with the positives that we believe that we're going to have a good result against Bologna and a positive result there against Nottingham Forest. And I'm sure that all Villa fans who have listened, whether they're stood on the Holt End, sat at Trinity Road, having a pint in the Witten Arms, or just lounging about at home, we appreciate you being part of our Talk of the Trinity family, listening, whether you're a fan or you're a podcaster who's trying to get some of Dave's insight there to use on your own episodes. Don't blame you. We hope that all those fans travelling to Italy have a safe journey and they don't just come home after enjoying pasta, cannelloni, calzone, lasagna, pizza, the sights of Bologna or Rome, if you accidentally booked your tickets for there instead. But they also come back celebrating a big win for Villa over in Italy, because let's not forget, Unai Emery is probably the best conqueror of the world since Christopher Columbus. Until next time,
Okay.
from me and Dave, cheers, Tar. Thank you very much. Up the Villa.
Golazzo!